Well, you gave me one earlier, so I didn't take the other one, unless you changed something. I got my notes on this one, so.
Then I'm just gonna.
Okay.
So this is probably yours.
You ready?
I don't really need it, but I can.
All right, good evening. I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Common Council for Monday, February 19th. If we could all do the roll and please press your aye and confirm button. Is that, see that on my screen.
I see it on mine.
I know, but that's not on my screen.
He's coming to take a look.
No, it's
Oh,
not.
there you go.
Alderman Dwayne and Alderman Zima. Okay. Okay. All right, there are 12 present, so we obviously have a quorum and we'll continue. You have an amended agenda before you, and before we proceed tonight, we need to address the clerk's shortage. Both Chris and Anita are out today. I think we have 15 people in this building out with the flu, and so we need a temporary clerk, and I'd like to appoint Pam Manley. Pam obviously works in our finance department. She was the clerk out in Kewanee, and we'd talked to her, and she can be our clerk tonight. And if someone could read the... All right, so there's a motion and a second for the appointment of Pamela Manley as temporary deputy clerk pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 62.09 sub 5 sub D for the purpose of discharging the officer's duties until the officer returns. So we had a motion by Alderman Dwayne, seconded by Alderman Stoyer. Discussion on this? All in favor of that motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed, nays. Ayes have it. All right, welcome. Congratulations, clerk. All right, with that, if we could all please rise now for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for the invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Heavenly Father, tonight as we gather for the betterment of Green Bay, help us use the gifts you've given each of us to build a community of faith and friendship. Today we celebrate President's Day. We're grateful for the 45 people who have led our United States. We pray for our president and pray that all leaders look to you for guidance and wisdom. As one of our former presidents said, in a world that is so torn with strife, where the divisions seem to be increasing, not people coming together, I wonder if we ever thought about the greatest tool we have, the power of prayer and God's help. Tonight we also pray for the victims and families of Stoneman Douglas High School in Florida. We cannot imagine the pain and agony they are experiencing, but we can hold them in our thoughts and prayers and be mindful of the things that we can do as government leaders and as concerned citizens. We also ask for your continued blessing on our dedicated men and women who serve and protect our country, especially those on the USS Green Bay. We ask this in your name. Amen. All right, with that, I'll entertain a motion for approval of the agenda. There's a motion by Alderman Nicholson and a seconded by Alderman Scannell. Alderman Dwayne, yep.
Yes, I'd like to change, put number 9 after number 3.
All right, so there's a motion by Alderman Dwayne to move the report of the Protection and Welfare Committee up following the report of the Plan Commission. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor of that motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Anything else? Randy, Alderman Scannell? Was there anything else? Anybody? All right, then with that, I'll entertain a motion to adopt as amended. By Alderman Nicholson, seconded by Alderman Scannell. All in favor of that motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed, nays. And the agenda as amended has been approved.
We're now on to the report of the mayor.
Just one thing tonight. Colleen Hintz is leaving the city. She's sitting, there you are. I know you're sitting in tonight for Joe. And it says on here you're retiring. Really? You're retiring this Friday from the city as our safety manager. And I just want to give, we're going to have a little event for Colleen internally, but she's made many contributions to the city as a safety manager since she was hired in 2009. She's the one who implemented the safety policies and programs and has made a significant impact on improving the overall safety of our employees. And just to get this in numbers that you guys can relate to, our employee claims, and it's because of the things that Colleen did, went from 1.3 million to just under 600,000. That's significant. 167 complaints, claims down to 85. And Colleen also worked on the events committee to help facilitate the many special events held within our city. She's been a great employee and is going to be missed, and I just want to give her a public recognition and ask you to join me in thanking Colleen. Thanks. Rhinelander. All right, that concludes my report.
We're on to the announcements.
Okay, I don't see any. Alderperson Dorf? Hang on. Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. The one announcement I'd like to make is on behalf of a family who suffered a disastrous flood on Friday to 2 levels of their home. It was in our city, and their homeowner's insurance is not going to be able to cover that. And so there is a GoFundMe page that the mother of the husband put up, Tammy Swanson. And if you go to my Facebook page, Barbara Dorf, Alderwoman for City of Green Bay, the GoFundMe link is there, and I'm reaching out to anyone in the community that might be able to help this family. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other announcements? Barb, if you just want to turn off your light. Okay, clerk, we can continue.
We're on to reappointments. We have Old Main Street Business Improvement District Board, Ryan Keene and Wanda Sieber, terms to expire January 5th of 2021.
There's a motion by Alderman Tom DeWine, second by Alderman Randy Scannell, to confirm the 2 appointments. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed, nays. The ayes have it, and those 2 appointments have been confirmed. Thank you.
Now on to referral of petitions and communications. On page 1 of your packet, you have all petitions and communications received by the clerk's office by noon on Thursday. We will now accept any late communications you may have.
We'll begin with Alderman Tom DeWine.
Thank you, Honor. This was given to us by a citizen of Green Bay, and it says, I would like the council as a whole to consider with possible action changing the city ordinance to have the head of the city legal department to be an elected position, to be a 4-year term running concurrent with the mayor's race and to the start of the spring 2019 election. This position is also referred to as the city attorney and prosecutor. David Land released 146 Alpine Drive. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Alderperson Dorf.
Thank you. I have 2 petitions. The first one is referred to the mayor's office to research and implement policy and procedure necessary to develop a protocol to assist community members who are in crisis due to a disaster such as a flood, which has been caused due to the malfunction of city services or property. The protocol should include a project manager as a point person, either as a separate position or as part of a current position, that will have the responsibility to navigate all community services, charities, and other resources, and that will also help citizens contact and work with appropriate city and other departments, including the water utility. Procedures to provide services and help from a designated staff member who must be available after normal work hours and on weekends and holidays should be included, and contact numbers must be available to the public. Staff should coordinate with the Water Department, which is also working on establishing policy and procedure. And I know the city has already begun working on this, but I just wanted to put this in a late communication.
Thank you.
My other communication is to Traffic, Bike, and Ped to do a sidewalk study, to have sidewalks installed on East Mason Street from Main Street to the I-43 Business Park on both sides of the street. And this is from both Alder Duane and Alder Dorf.
All right, thank you. Alderman Joe Moore?
Thanks, Your Honor. Out of Finance Committee, we took action on an item regarding the housing authorities. One item we couldn't take action on, I want to bring forward as a communication, as a separate action. And this is to draft resolution supporting the combining of a Green Bay and Brown County housing authorities.
Thank you. Alderman Geisema?
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm submitting for the Brown County Tavern League their request for the Protection and Welfare Committee in the city to consider their concerns regarding procedures now in place to obtain a liquor license in Green Bay.
Thank you. Pam, do you have any other late communications?
I do not.
Okay, seeing no other lights and having no other late communications from the clerk, I'll entertain a motion to refer. Motion by Alderman Weary, second by Alderman Scannell to refer all petitions and communications. All in favor of that motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed, nays. Ayes have it, and all petitions and communications have been referred to the proper authorities. Okay, Pam?
Reports for council action. The first report we have is the report of the Economic and Development Authority.
All right, there's a motion by Alderman Nicholson, second by Alderman Duane, to approve the report of the Green Bay Economic Development Authority for the meeting held on Wednesday, February 14th. Any items in this report you wish to handle separately? Hearing none, all in favor of that report, please signify by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed, nays. Ayes have it, that report's been approved.
Report of the Plan Commission.
What are your wishes regarding this report? There's a motion to approve by Alderman Scannell, second by Alderman David Nenning, to approve the report of the Green Bay Plan Commission for the meeting held on Monday, February 12th. Any items in this report you wish to handle separately?
Number 7.
Number 7. Okay, hearing none others, all in favor of the remainder of that report, please signify by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed, nays. Ayes have it. That report's been approved with the exception of item 7. And what are your wishes regarding item 7? There's a motion to approve by Alderman Scannell, second by Alderman Tom Duane. Alderman Duane.
Yeah, thank you, Your Honor. Before we get into this, I'd like to open the floor for interested parties, so the developers here. And just so we make sure we get this right.
All right, so we have a motion and a second to open the floor to hear from interested parties. All in favor of that motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed, nays. Ayes have it. So the floor is now open to the public. We're discussing item 7 under the report of the Green Bay Plan Commission. Item 7 is to amend the Grandview Place Planned Unit Development, PUD, which is Erie Road, Grandview Road, subject to the draft PUD. Is anyone here in the public who'd like to speak to that? If you want to step up to the podium, please, and you could state your name and address for the clerk.
Tina Bunker, 825 South Huron Road, Green Bay, 54311.
Is that mic on?
We had an opportunity to meet with planning.
I'm going to ask you to move the mic just a little, it gets recorded. There you go.
We had the opportunity to meet with planning on Tuesday, and there were 12 items that I had requested, and all but one of them, it's my understanding that they were resolved. I did email this afternoon and asked for a copy of the packet to be sent to me so I could review things in advance. I did not get that, so I guess I was hoping Director Vaughn could provide me with some clarification as to how some of the items were handled at our discussion. I had provided each of the items in there. Number 1, there shouldn't be anything. Number 2, there shouldn't be anything. 3, shouldn't be anything. 4, there shouldn't be anything. Number 5, I'm just wondering where I would find that in here, Director Vonk. The compromise that we had made, to my understanding, was that the facade would be preserved with parkings on Grandview and Erie Road.
Oops, sorry, Kevin. Go ahead. Kevin, can you get that? Let me put the party lens on here.
Correct. And just to the, Ms. Bunker, I'd like to apologize. We did have a number of staff out today, so that's probably
For
why.
the weather.
Yep.
Yep, no, I'm
No.
not, and it was late. It was in
Illness.
the afternoon. I'm just
Sure.
trying to make sure that,
Sure. So
that
for
everything
number-
we talked about is in here.
Correct. And so for number 5, I believe the understanding is that in terms of not having garages, that we were going to not have garages on the collector streets, which are going to be spelled out as Erie and Grandview roads.
Okay.
So that way, in this case, the road that cuts from east to west, and remind me of the name of that again?
Rocky Arbor.
Rocky Arbor would be allowed to have garages
Copper Falls,
fronting
yeah.
that street.
So, should I be able to find this in here?
Yeah, I do not have the latest copy of the updated pack. It will probably be, I believe it should be up for first reading in the ordinance, so I can get you a copy of that in the
That was
council
in this
packet.
Packet, yeah. I have the packet.
And
I'm
it's not in
looking
the
through it,
packet?
And I don't see those, unless I can't find it. I got here about 20 minutes early to read through it, but I didn't. And if you want, would be happy to,
Sure. I think the other thing is if somebody making the motion of approval can note the discussion that we're having here,
Sure.
that for the third,
That-
that for the
that's
third
fine.
reading, those get included
I gave you that.
on that.
Thank you, though. Okay, so I just want to clarify then that, that just on Erie and Grandview will be subject to the requested item 3, section 3BF. Number 6 here, C, section 3CA. The add language to exclude residential homes was done. And I did see that in there. Number 7. Shall be no requirement that the garage of any residential home be set back from the main home. I just want to, again, have something on the record here of what we had discussed that,
Sure.
because I
So-
did not see that. I know it's referencing other code, but I guess I just want to make sure we're on the same page.
Correct. So for that specific thing about garage setbacks, we would reference, it's on page 23D in the packet for council, which would be section 3, sub B, sub 3, where it says dimensional standards.
Yep.
And that's the table where basically it says the front yard setback is minimum 10 feet, maximum 35 feet. But then we would also, in that reference, our zoning code, which has a maximum setback, or, excuse me, a setback for the garages of 25 feet. So that's what we discussed at Plan Commission, that we would just be referring to this table and then what is in our zoning code in terms of where that
So-
garage could fall.
So there's no so the garage can protrude from the home, correct?
Correct.
Okay, fantastic. I believe for number 6, there was a change added that was different than I had. So I guess, so on page 23G, at the top of the page, it says materials, a 30% mix of materials is required for the front facade of residential structures. A major change in texture on a material can be considered as a change in material with planning approval. I did not have in my request planning approval, and then there was additional language that I have not seen until tonight, which says a change in direction of application does not qualify in a change of material or texture. Some of the facades that I see right now will switch the regular, 4-inch horizontal siding to a wide 6-inch vertical siding. So I guess I just would like either this clarified that there are basically 3 different types of vinyl siding that are most prominent right now. It would be a shake siding, a vertical siding, and a horizontal siding. And I guess I just want to clarify that that mix will be allowed with that change. And the way I read it here, I would think that the vertical siding would not create a change. I think it certainly breaks up the front of the home. It provides for a different look, and that was my intention as I made the request. Preferably, I would like to see it the way I had it.
Sounds like
So why don't we wait 2 weeks?
Correct.
I didn't see this until tonight here, so.
And I'm looking in terms of what we discussed on Monday. That was number 8 on the list that you're referring to. I mean, number 8 in terms of your addendum request.
No, that's not. I still never got clarification on that one, and I was very confused. It is,
Point of order.
Alderman Galvin, you get your mic here.
I'm sorry, I'm a little lost with what's going on here. What
This
was,
is a project that was taken 2.5 years. Dr. Vaughn took the time to do this to make sure we get this done tonight so we can proceed with this. And what happened tonight is, what was agreed on, not all of it, or some of it was changed on the developer, so she wants to make sure when we approve this tonight, that it's done right. And it was the goodness of Dr. Vaughn that put this together, made sure it didn't have to go back to committee.
okay,
So we're just taking a few extra minutes to make sure, because sometimes staff changes things without the knowledge of the developer, whether it's, and she's just asking,
so this was not all agreed to?
yes, it was.
it was agreed to, and I just want to make sure that what's in paper, I never got a copy of this before
Okay.
tonight. So what I'm making sure is conversations that we had on Tuesday made it to this paper. And some of the things I see and some of the things I don't see. So I'm looking for clarification so that I'm frankly not in the position that I am right now.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Director Vonk, you think this is appropriate to,
So I don't have in my notes that we discussed that
It
piece
was-
on Monday, that the request, you made a request to allow
make that
for a
change.
change of direction would be a change in material.
Yep, and it didn't come up as
And we didn't come up, it did not come up to my recollection in the discussion on Monday.
one that you objected to. So I assumed it was approved. And then I see a change in here.
So let me pull up the report. So in the report, that did not come across as an objection, so I would consider that as acceptance of it.
Correct.
So
And it-
that we will modify the language of, on page 23G, so on number 6, materials, a change in direction of application does qualify as a change in material or texture.
So
That is
you
what you're
then-
seeking?
Yes, so
Okay.
then you will delete with planning approval, and then the last sentence will be struck as well?
The acceptable building facade material?
A change in direction of application does not qualify as a change in material or texture.
So a sentence prior, a major change in texture or direction on a material can
Yep.
be considered a change in material.
Period.
Okay.
And then the with planning approval in the second sentence needs to be removed.
Yes, I know we did not discuss it, but there was not an objection to it, so I
Correct.
would consider that
Again, that was,
accepted.
yes, that's what
Correct.
my understanding was as well. I guess I would just like something on the record here that we are on the same understanding that the sidewalks in front of each home don't go in until the building permit or the latter part of that code, which reads that the city would put that in. So they're not required at the time the streets actually go in, but rather when the development of the lot and a home is put in place, correct?
I will let Director Grenier override me, but my understanding is the sidewalk needs to be put in when a certificate or before a certificate of occupancy is issued to the building.
Correct? Okay.
you-
Just
Steve?
wanted some clarification on that. And then the last item that I have that we were leaving for council to discuss was regard to the walking trails. When I spent a considerable amount of time putting this together, I worked with the city, I worked with the Bear Creek Preservation Foundation. I was very accommodating to what they wanted. Everything was within reason. I made all the suggestions. I incorporated all of them into our design. I was very clear from the start, and apparently there was not documentation to flow through to the accepted material, which is why I'm clarifying other certain items today, that I would not install nor maintain the walking trails. I said I will work with you. I will dedicate anything you want within reason. There were some northern trails that were dedicated. There was a lot that was basically traded out for a parking lot for the future south branch of Bear Creek. I was very clear with the Preservation Foundation. I was very clear with Dan at Planning. Unfortunately, there is no written documentation at this time that I had agreed to more or less donate what they thought was they saw fit, but I would not install nor would I maintain future trails.
What was discussed, that the developer was not responsible for the walkway or maintaining it, that they were to give the property to City of Green Bay. Period.
We'll dedicate them as it shows.
Dedicate all land, the acres, but the city or the, would be responsible for if they want walkways in through that. Not the developer.
So our chapter 14, the subdivision plating code, requires that any new development, that the installation of trails is at the cost of the developer. I think in terms of working with Parks and Public Works, we're flexible in terms of when that trail is installed, and generally it's when the final streets are installed. But with that, our code calls for the developer to do that. I understand here we're working with a planned unit development, so we can deviate from what is standard in our code. With that, I feel it would be setting a poor precedent in terms of, removing the obligations of doing such trail from the developer in terms of future developments. Just in talking with Parks, I think we're clear in terms of working with the developer to create a trail that ultimately will be dedicated to the city and that Parks will maintain. But in terms of that initial outlay, staff believes in accordance with our code that responsibility should still fall on the developer. And that's how it is written right now in the PUD.
That was not my understanding from the adoption of it. I know that you weren't around for that. I wish I could call Dan. Unfortunately, it did not make it through to here. It was my understanding of the process, and that's why I respectfully request that you consider my request as we, without any grumble, dedicated anything that was requested from us, including the south branch of Bear Creek, which, as many of you may know, has been kind of a contested thing in years past, so.
Mayor, what the council has to decide tonight is whether or not to waive this ordinance so the developer is not responsible for the property that is given to the city of Green Bay. I know it's an ordinance, but we're asking, because it is a PUD, that we're allowed to do this type of thing, and so that's what we're asking to put in there at this time. So, and then, is there any more?
That was just a couple clarification items that I had,
Right.
just so we had something on the record, so I'm not in this position again.
All right, thanks. All right, is there anyone else
I know,
who
we're
wants to
going
speak
through
to
it
this
again.
item? Yeah, come on up. No, you're done.
And what law is in there?
Did you have something for her? For Kevin, or? Oh, I'll bring her back. All right.
My name hasn't changed, by the way. I'm Jim Gretza. Address is 3667 Finger Road. This is not real complicated. If you refer to the plot, I think it's page 23Q, you'll see a part of the development fronting Finger Road. It says it's 2.49 acres. It's the only part that fronts Finger Road. It is not its own parcel, by the way, so we can't refer to it as a parcel. My wife Jackie and I own the property to the east of that. We have an offer to purchase this 2.49 acres contingent on it being removed from the PUD. Okay, so we're asking that in your changes, that you remove that parcel from the PUD. Any questions? Thank you.
Can we do that, Dr. Brown? Parcel 2.49 acres directly west.
The 2.45 acres of senior living on South Grandview Road,
No, it's fronts Finger Road.
the 2.49 acres of single-family residential on Finger Road.
Yeah.
You're asking us to remove that from the PUD?
Yes,
Yes.
they want to buy that for themselves.
And personally, the reason is we don't want to have to come back to the city council and talk about it every time the PUD comes up.
Sure. I don't recall this being discussed on Monday.
It wasn't.
Okay.
No.
No, not with,
No,
not with the council.
I mean, we're putting you in a tough position. I mean, he's here, right. No, I think you can entertain that, or take a look at it. I mean, we can send that, you can take a look at
Right.
it with planning. You don't have to decide.
My,
I don't think you should decide tonight. You just heard about it. I mean, 2.5 acres in the city?
right, my hesitation right now, and this is just knowing how this development has worked, is that the pieces to the south of Copper Falls Way, there are a number of wetland and stream bank issues in there. I know we have an area development plan and a road plan put out there, but we've run into some hiccups with the DNR in terms of wetlands and stream crossings. And so with that, the road configuration, I don't know if it's going to exactly end up like this in the end. And I wouldn't want the city or for the developer to cut ourselves out of any potential scenarios that might require dipping into that area to accommodate changes in road configuration or lot configuration. So I guess without having it at this point, I would not be in favor of that.
Okay.
With that, I think, you know, the, moving forward with the PUD as is, and the developer decides to sell the property, you know, to Mr. Gretzka, it could come back and have it removed from the PUD in the future. I wouldn't see a problem with that since there is an exit strategy or a particular use. But right now, I would look at keeping that within the PUD. That is owned by the developer right now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, they can work that out.
Yeah,
Okay,
okay.
all right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Your Honor, so,
Let's wait, let me see if there's anyone else. No?
move to return to regular order.
All right, there's a motion by Alderman Dwayne, second by Alderman Scannell to return to regular order. All in favor of that motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed, nay. Alderman Dwayne, you had the
Yeah,
floor.
yeah,
Alderman
thank you,
Galvin,
Your
your
Honor.
light is still on.
And I appreciate everybody's patience. Dr. Vonk really did an excellent job Monday. He knows what the work has been going through. We probably had 10, maybe more meetings trying to get this situated. He walked thoroughly through the entire thing with planning. They agreed on this. And so what I'm asking the council to do, so we can get these projects going, is to approve this PUD tonight that Dr. Vonk and planning worked on. And thank you for your patience.
Yeah, I don't know if that's exactly what you're recommending.
So,
Does this have the trails? Does this have the
yeah, that
developer?
says that trails, I said that earlier, that the trail, that the developer will not be responsible for the trails.
Alderman Scannell.
Well, I just wanted to make sure that that was in there, because,
That's, yeah,
yeah, so,
that would be number
I
12.
guess, I would just like to hear from staff that, I mean, we have the power to take it out.
Right.
Staff is recommending we don't. If I could just get a little more from staff on, why we have that as why it's in the law like that, what's the purpose?
So, the reason we have that in is it follows Chapter 14 of our code, subdivision and plating code. Basically says that, look, if you want to develop a parcel of land in the city and then do a subdivision, you as developer will be largely responsible for putting in the infrastructure. And in this case, you know, streets, sidewalks, trails. And those come at the cost of the developer. Now, in future, the homeowner, adjacent homeowner, will be responsible for maintaining the sidewalks, but the city has agreed to take over any multi-purpose, multi-use trail. One of the reasons we keep this in, even though it's a PUD, is we feel to be consistent with our general subdivision ordinance, that it remains an area of consistency in terms of, being able to successfully get trails built within the city. I think, working with Parks and Public Works, we've been flexible about the timing of those trails and then the, location, materials and things, so that works both for the developer and for the city. I also, feel and looks, when we compare ourselves to adjacent municipalities, I don't think we're any more cumbersome than other municipalities who require this, or maybe in some cases more in terms of infrastructure. I also feel in terms of just I think a note of caution, and perhaps, Co-Director Dishai could answer a little bit more of this. We don't maintain trail right-of-ways. We maintain trails. So if we are going to take on the responsibility of doing the trail, as soon as that land is dedicated, we're gonna need to bond to put in the trail to maintain it. We just have had issues in the past, and I can let, as I said, Co-Director Ditchite explain a little bit more. But I think that's a cognizant cost in terms of if we're going to do it, we're gonna have to bond for it right away. But I think just also be prepared then for every other developer that's going to be coming in, probably asking for the same thing in terms of changing our precedent.
How much?
Yeah, we have not done a cost estimate to see how much a trail would cost here, but I will tell you from past experience that anytime we maintain a grass strip in between residential properties, it's problematic. The property owners a lot of times take ownership of that turf. So if the city council does want to waive the developer paving the trail, we would request that you definitely find funding to do it in the very short term. The Parks Department does not have funding to go towards it right now. We could use parkland fees from this development to fund a portion of it, but it will not fund it all. I believe that phase one of the development, parkland fees are $37,700, which would pave a portion of the trail, but not the entire trail.
Can I ask what portion? Is it 25%? I mean, we can figure out the math.
I haven't calculated it out. I'd have to go back and do a quick cost estimate on it. I don't know the lineal footage of the trail
All right.
off the top of my head.
Okay.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, go ahead, Alderman.
Well, could we just hold this particular item and negotiate more on this and get more, I mean, does that portion have to pass tonight?
So I think the developer would like to see something move forward. I think they're interested in moving the process along, and I think both staff and the developer have taken a good amount of time to get this at this point today, and would hope that something could be passed today. Again, it's a planned unit development, so it's an ordinance, and if you wanted to amend it in the future, you could. If you wanted to take more time to look at it and get some better handle on costs, we amend ordinances and PUDs from time to time. Could go back and make that amendment to remove the trail at a future date.
Okay, then I think I'm not going to support at this time, I'm not going to support this at this time, and we can go back, we can look this over and come back to it and make an amendment then. I think it'd be better to not, it's going to be easier to amend it to the developer's advantage later than to amend it later to the developer's disadvantage if we go forward with it tonight. And maybe we can work out with the developer or some kind of deal where we do part, they do part, or something, or whatever. I think I feel this needs further discussion before I'd feel comfortable moving ahead with this right now. So I'm not going to support that part right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Galvin?
Thank you, Your Honor. Is it possible to find out from the developer if they've worked out a cost to pave this trail?
They don't want to. Do you want to answer that, the cost of paving the trail? Do you know? Okay.
Okay, can I ask you why, since we have this
You
ordinance
can
in
open the
place?
floor again, Bill, if we want to do this.
I
I
can
mean-
answer that for you. Mayor, you don't have to open the floor.
Why don't they want to pay for it?
Well, when they did this in 2016, they said, when this all came forward, they very adamantly said they will not pay for this. We're giving you this property. We're going to donate it to the city of Green Bay. That's your gift, but we will not pay for this. You know, it's going to be up to you to do this. And when Dan was at, they agreed upon that. And it's been hanging out there since it's been almost over 2 years, Alderman Galvin. And adamantly, every time we've had a meeting, she said, the agreement was that they weren't gonna pay for this, and that's why anybody never looked to see what it would cost.
Yeah, a lot of lights.
Okay.
I mean, the
Thank you.
city wants
Okay,
that
right.
property. Thank you, Your
You
Honor.
good? Yep, thank you. You all right, Alderman Galvin? Anything else?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Alderman Joe Moore?
Thanks, Your Honor. About 6 months ago, I came to the planning department with a communication to amend our policy altogether, and to review that part, which was referred to staff because the policy was under review anyway. I haven't seen that be completed yet. So the whole intent of that was for this specific project. So, I mean, really something that probably should have been resolved a while ago. It's taken a long time. We're seeing subdivisions around us, like Lawrence, Hobart, Howard, Ledgeview, East of Pier, and everything is selling fast. The city of Green Bay is lacking in affordable lots, and builders are seeking them desperately. Even Bellevue has got subdivisions and another one coming in this year, which Grandview will be directly competing with for sales on land. Look, our tax rates are higher than our neighboring communities as well, and people take that into account. With our CMOM program and our wastewater, our stormwater program, we also face those challenges with builders coming in and doing work here. But talk about how to pay for the trail. This is all farm field right now, getting a couple $1,000s a year in taxes, if it's that much. It's probably $500. Once this is plotted out, you're looking at 300 lots at probably $500 a piece minimum. I mean, that's where you're paying for your trails when you're building your tax base. The vacant lot, one vacant lot is gonna be equivalent to this entire farm field in taxes once it's, you know, like I said, plotted. And we have several hundred of them. So once you start putting homes on these, look, we wanna get the roads fixed, and we talk about an awful lot and building our tax base, but we're making it just about impossible for a builder and a developer to come in here and get homes built and build the tax base. Look, they wanna make money, and it only benefits the community. So, I mean, I would be fully supportive of amending this. And really, as far as this being a precedence, how much vacant land is in Green Bay? I mean, how many more subdivisions are there going to be in Green Bay?
Zero.
So,
Oh, no.
we have some land, there's some
No, I'm
land.
saying for parkways. I mean,
But,
that's gonna be
right,
donated.
right. For parkways and trails where this situation is going to arise. I mean, it could come up a few more times. And there is precedence that we establish, but it's a case-by-case basis on each time. So I fully support this tonight. We need to get this project going. We need to get this land available so people can start building on it, building some tax base. This is just a smart fiscal decision for us tonight to accept this PUD with these amendments. Thank you.
Thanks. Alderperson Barb Dorf?
Thank you, Mayor. So, speaking especially to Alder Scannell and Alder Galvin, and I know that you have some questions, but I have been to the Plan Commission meetings. I have been, over the years, spending hours and hours talking about this particular development, and I feel the developer has been very reasonable. Alder Dwayne has worked very closely with his family. Although the development is in my district, he and I are working very closely together. And because of all of the backstory and all of the back history, I am very supportive of the developer not needing to pay for the trails. The developer donated the land. The developer has been more than patient with the city in trying to get this through. And so I am very much in favor of the city. If we want to put a trail in, we put the trail in, we pay for the trail, and we take it out of this PUD tonight. I think it's necessary for this development to go forward. I think this city needs this development. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Dave Nanning?
Thank you, Your Honor. First, I'd like to ask, there are a lot of different issues that were discussed here tonight. Aside from this trail issue, the other issues are not in the printed document that's before us either, are they? All of them?
Director Vonk, I think that's for you.
Sure. I believe they should, based on the discussion on Monday, they should have been translated into the PUD update that was provided for you today. I think that's why Ms. Bunker was asking, some of the things did not seem to make it across, and I think that's why we had the clarification, the understanding here of just what language was interpreted.
Okay, well, could we verify that before the next meeting so that when this comes back, if there are amendments that are necessary to clarify any of the language, that we have an opportunity to do that? In regard to this trail issue, I remember the discussion very clearly 3 years ago, and I remember it as an issue where there was disagreement between the parties. I don't remember it as an issue where the city agreed to put in the trail at city expense. Sometimes detail like that gets lost in the shuffle. But in terms of our subdivision and platting ordinance, when there are infrastructure costs required for a development, like let's say if sidewalks were ordered in, clearly the developer would have to pay those costs. Now, because this is called a trail, we're being asked to pick up the costs of paving that trail. I don't know. I think it is setting a precedent, and I at least would like a better estimate of what the costs are going to be before we accept the premise that the city is going to pay for the trail. Our staff hasn't done that, and I'd also like some clear language regarding future maintenance of property alongside the trail. So the issues that Dan talked about are clear. So my preference is, if we have the ability to deal with amendments as this comes forward, my preference would be to approve it without that amendment tonight. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Alderman Guy Zima?
Thank you, Your Honor. It seemed to me we had this discussion here once before, and if I remember correctly, and I will be corrected if I'm thinking wrong, but I thought that was the trade-off that was pretty much agreed to, that some of the staff didn't agree to, but that they would donate not only the trail land, but also some other land, if I'm remembering it right, and the city would do their own trails. I know, I guess my question is, do other developers donate land and build the trails also?
I think you mentioned that. Kevin?
Yes. So the issue we have here in terms of that understanding, I think there's always the understanding that the city would take parkland, and that the city would also take the trailway and right-of-way for the trail. But I do not have anything, and we do not have anything written documentation that we would take responsibility for building the trail.
But was there something more than the land just of the trail that was donated? It
Then
seems
the-
to me that was in the conversation.
Correct. There's a piece of parkland, I believe, Fraki Harbor, that would also be dedicated to the city. Much like.
And that's extra beyond what other developers would do?
No, every subdivision development is required to do these things, dedicating trail land, installing the trail, dedicating parkland, or paying fees in lieu of. It's the same across the board.
Okay, so the extra land that they donated besides the trail land is the same as other developers have to do?
I would not consider it extra. I consider it in line with a formula that we have in terms of per house or per unit, the amount of parkland that's necessary to service that subdivision.
So they haven't donated more than the normal formula?
Not to my understanding, unless,
It
Perhaps-
seemed to me that was the case. Like I say, I could be corrected.
sure, I think
But
Code Director
is it
Ditchak could
possible
probably.
that we just move this to the second reading and work that out between now and the next meeting?
Right, it could, I just want to say, that was mentioned too, that this does come back, right? I mean, it's first reading, and that's an option.
Well, we
Can I
can
just
push
hear
it to
from?
a second reading instead of the third reading.
I got it. Can I just hear from Dan?
In relation to the parkland fees, so every development within the city is responsible to pay a parkland fee or donate property in lieu of the fee. And in this case, the developer proposed to donate some parkland, but it was not assessed at the same value or of equal value.
So that's where the disagreement came in, that the value didn't meet the requirement, is that it?
Correct.
I don't know, could we hear from the developer about it? I remember the conversation before, but I just don't remember the details. Because, I mean, we're being asked to say, is that enough or isn't it? I mean, most of the time we want to be fair, we want to get the thing going, so how big a deal is this? Is it just a few thousand difference on 300 lots, or is it a lot of money?
I can answer that. So the parkland fee for this first phase of development is $60,200. The assessor's office set a value of $22,500 for the donated property. So if you deduct that off, that means the developer would donate the property and still have to pay $37,700.
And they're balking at that. Is that,
What they have issues with is paying for the trail, not necessarily the fee, is my understanding of it.
what are the outstanding differences here? I'm trying to get a handle on this.
I think the outstanding difference is that traditionally, the developer will pay for the trail, installation of the trail, and then dedicate it to the city. Here, the developer is asking for the city to pay for the trail. They'll dedicate the land, but they want the city to pay for the trail.
And that's never been done before?
Not in my tenure, perhaps it has, but our,
Of course, we haven't been developing like crazy. We haven't had much land to develop. So is this a fight over $37,000 then? You must have some estimates for what it cost to pave that through there.
Do you guys, I think that's a fair question. I mean, do we have, I think that parkland fee, we said it's worth 22,000, their fees were 60,000, and they're gonna pay the additional 40. So I think you set that aside. We're talking about the trail.
correct.
Okay.
And I think that's-
Alderman Zima, and I think it's a fair question. I know, it's really not asking how long is a rope. I mean, about how much will that cost to install that trail? I get the maintenance.
How much a running foot is it cost?
Right.
$4 square foot.
I mean, it's not like you're building a road.
It's 9 feet.
I think we're at a point, I mean, neither
I
has
don't know.
done a cost estimate because the developer was under the assumption that they were not going to have to do it, and the city is also under that same assumption, so we were not making any calculations.
Well, what's at stake here? The 37,000 and the paving?
Yes.
We want them to do both? Pay 37,000 more and pave it?
Right.
Well, can we hear from them why they think that's unfair? I think that would be, I'd want to hear the other side of the argument here. I'd make a motion to suspend the
Second.
rules.
All right, so we have a motion by Alderman Zima, second by Alderman Tom Dwayne to suspend the rules to hear from interested parties. All in favor of that motion, please signify by saying aye. You guys on board with this? All in favor, say aye. Aye. And those opposed, nay. All right, the ayes have it. The floor is now open. Mrs. Bunker, I think they are asking, our policy is parkland fee, there was a difference. The fees were 60,000, you donated 22,000. So there's a balance due. But I think the bigger question is, we're asking you to install the trail.
I've never had a problem, or I've never even seen the calculation, well, maybe I have seen it, but I've never questioned the calculation of what was due in terms of park fees. I understand that the city has a process for that. I did not address it ahead of time. There's a standard that we have always had, and I'm not questioning that. I'm simply questioning what I've talked to many of you before about, and that is, I said that I would donate, I'd work with parks. I personally talked with the Bear Creek Preservation Foundation. I said I would work within reason to donate what you want, to which I think I have. I said, but I will not install and I will not maintain a trail. And the park fees that you're talking about, I'm not sure if you're talking about for the entire development. You know, this particular phase is just a small part of it. I mean, if you look at what's being dedicated for the south branch of Bear Creek, I mean, there's a substantial amount of property that has been donated to that. And I would just ask for understanding in terms of, this is what I had discussed all along, and that's why I'm here. I was very clear all along.
I guess I just want to ask some questions from something
Right.
she said. So the developer would have to build it and maintain it, permanently maintain it?
No,
I think that's what Dan had talked, I don't put words in your mouth, but I think,
The city would maintain it.
right.
correct. It's the building, and I was very clear with Dan, as well as I was very clear with a number of aldermen during the plating of this, because we had some items of contention that we did work through. And this one didn't come through to what I was really very firm on
So you say there were
throughout the
other
process.
compromises
There are a lot of compromises that were made to this
that you
development.
feel that you gave?
Oh, dozens. I mean, yes.
Well, I mean, that would be a consideration.
Well,
Maybe
for-
we should have a list of those and see if it balances off here, you know?
In terms of other considerations that I made, I had to make consideration changes for the design of the property. You know, what can be built on it, how it can be built. You know, there are, per the ordinance, there are restrictions that have to be done. And particularly with the commercial buildings, there's a design that they're looking for with regards to parking, with regards to materials. I mean, we developed this as one big chunk like this to provide consistency for the product. We also agreed to sidewalks on both sides of the street, which yes, is your ordinance, but that was not something that we were necessarily thrilled about, but we agreed to for the walkability of the subdivision, because that's something that, you know, planning staff was very adamant about, sidewalks on both sides of the street throughout the development.
There are developments that don't have them.
There are, correct, with one side. I mean, we would have preferred something different, primarily because not everyone wants a sidewalk in front of their street. It's not that we don't value them or not value them, it's just not everybody wants one on their yard, and we don't want to make everyone have to, but we agreed to it. Those are two examples. I made two specific examples where Bear Creek Preservation and the Green Bay Parks Department, they wanted particular access and particular parts, and I just added it. I didn't question it. It was within reason. I thought it made sense, so I added it to it.
Do you know what the cost of paving it is?
I have no idea what the cost of it is because I have never, it's my understanding that it hasn't even completely been, there's different, I don't think it all can be paved, and I think that's another issue all in of itself, but.
Well, I mean, after all this contention, in 2 years, we haven't figured out some basics here. I guess I'm just at a loss of our staff or Public Works. Don't you have an idea what it costs?
Offhand for a trail, no, I don't.
Nobody knows what the price of a trail is. We build thousands of miles of them, but we don't know what they cost.
Well, it's not thousands of miles, but I mean,
Well, I'm exaggerating, but we do a lot of them.
as does the county, this is asphalt? I mean, can we,
Yeah, it's asphalt, I think.
pardon me?
A rough price for asphalt, you can do $4 a square foot with a base. But with that, I think one of the things we're dealing with here too is, again, given the configuration with wetlands and near the stormwater pond, actual ultimate length, in terms of, grade stability, I mean, those are other things we don't know until the actual trail length is determined. I think just in terms of, to answer Alderman Zimma's question about, precedent, just quickly speaking with Director Grenier, the preserve was probably the last big subdivision that we did. And in that, the developer was responsible for installing all the streets, all the sidewalks, the trails, and dedicating us an outlot as well. So just, I think that just provides some context in terms of, why we're sticking to some things in this PUD and why we're being, flexible with others.
So let 20 pass and stone the 21st, I don't know. But sometimes there's no rhyme or reason, but things collecting no taxes, we lose there too, so is there some way to split the difference or something and call it a day? Pay half and half?
If you want to lose it.
Yeah, do you want to ask the developer, or do you want to
consent
close
to
the
that?
floor?
I can tell you right now that as of last week, we've lost our buyer for the property because this has taken over a year and a half to do. So I can't commit to that, no, because at this point, I lost my buyer.
Wow. Okay, well, I'll let you guys talk about it.
Okay,
Thank you.
anything else? Okay, one more. All right, Alderman Weary, hang on, let me get your mic on.
Just
Right.
real easy question, this will be an easy one for you. What is this, 300-400 lots about, somewhere in there? When it's all completed?
It's more than that because it's 240
Okay,
acres.
okay,
So
I
I
was-
want to say there's about 500 residential lots is my guess.
So you're
And then
talking-
you've got, and I'm trying to go from memory, so I think it's roughly 500
That's fine. I just needed the rough- I-
lots. But I do know that, I believe you do collect the parkland fee on a per unit basis for like the multifamily and so forth. I think we had over 1,000 units, like inhabitable units in this development, and it was the mix of multifamily, which will collect your fee for, as well as residential.
So when done, this project will be $50 million worth of value at least, right? It's gonna be a lot with that many lots, commercial and residential.
It was very
not more.
significant, yes.
I would-
I
that's
don't,
being real
I did the
conservative.
original calculations, I
Okay.
wasn't expecting, this question tonight, I apologize.
That's fine. I just wanted to show how big it was,
It
how
is a
massive it is.
significant
and-
impact, especially when you can look at the way costs to build are going up, and that affects your tax base increasing as well. So, we have 2 homes for sale right now in the city of Green Bay. They're 1,700 square feet. They're on a 10,000 square foot lot. And those homes are for sale right now for $299,900.
Yeah.
The cost of new construction has gone up considerably, which that means the cost of this tax base, it goes up considerably versus leaving it as, just a cornfield. I mean, it is all currently land use basis, so, I believe it was Alderman Moore that said that the taxes that you're collecting on this property right now, is, yes, less than $500. Because it's farmed.
Thanks. I think I just wanted to point out that in order to get that massive project going, I think we can let go of some of this little stuff and get you rolling and work together. Thanks.
Could I ask one more question?
Hang on, go ahead.
The Gretzkas were up here before talking about some property west of their property,
Correct.
and you own that property?
I do,
And you're willing to sell it to them?
I am, because I want to
And
work
you've
with
come
the
to a
neighbors.
price?
We
You've got-
have come to a price.
You have an agreement, you have a
Yes,
conditioned on,
yes. I have worked.
so you have no problem with us taking that out of the PUD?
I have no problem with you taking that out of the PUD, we've worked, I think some of you remember how contentious this PUD has been. And the Greckas and I have worked together to develop a plan that they can live with. And this is recently, as of today, was our conversation. So I do apologize that it was last minute.
It's not fair to us.
Me trying to reach a handout.
So if we
and-
allow it, that's a settled deal?
Yes, they will be able to close on the
Okay,
property.
thank you very
And they
much,
will have
then.
peace of mind.
Just one question.
Go ahead, Alderman Scannell.
So if we pulled this out for the trail fee, the building of the trail now, I mean, this has still got to go forward before it's, the ordinance passes. It doesn't really hold up anything you're doing. I mean, we could still, next time, after further discussion, say, or further looking into this, say, okay, we are going to exempt you from the building the trail. I mean, to go forward tonight doesn't necessarily, without that piece, doesn't hold you up, does it?
I believe that holds up the amendment to the PUD. The main reason that this came before you today is for the stormwater component of it, because I've been unable to record a plat for 18 months, and this was the recent solution that we came up with. And as I was reading through the PUD, I thought, you know what, I have another unopened items. If you recall, many of you, we started as a TND, Traditional Neighborhood Development. It switched midstream to a PUD because of different components that we were negotiating. When that happened, the language of the ordinance changed, and I was working with Dan on the TND. I actually drafted all the language for the TND, and then he switched it to a PUD, which I never actually saw. So there were some items in there that that didn't come over, and as I was going through here, I looked for some clarification for
Right.
some things.
All right.
And that's why, again, tonight, I was very, I went through it line
Right.
by line, because
Yep.
I just want to make sure that we're on the same page.
All right, thank you.
All right. So with that, anybody else? Motion to adjourn? Yep. Go ahead.
So Tina, you're looking for the city to take the price of the trail out of the negotiations, right?
I'm asking for them to remove the requirement that the developer install the trail.
Okay.
And there was only one other clarification that did not make it through to here, or did not make it through the same. And Director Vonk and I discussed that, and it was about a sentence and like 3 words coming out, and we are on the same page as to what needs to be
Okay.
done there.
Mayor,
Everything else is,
thank you. When we go to the regular order of business, that will be my motion.
I think,
I already made the motion.
yeah.
Oh, you already got a motion on the floor?
Yeah.
Well, let's vote on this. I
Well,
mean,
here,
my
let's-
Gosh.
There you
Motion to return to regular order.
go. Motion by Alderman Dwayne, just to return to regular order.
Oh, I'm sorry. Didn't see him coming.
Bill Mindel, 125 West Michigan Road. Just a comment from the nickel seats, you can take it for what it's worth. I was here for the discussion for Grandview when this came up originally 2 or 3 years ago, somewhat back then. And the developer, Ms. Bunker, and her father were treated miserably by the city council. This issue went back and forth between committee. They were personally insulted by council members. It was not a pleasant sight. Fast forward to the Plan Commission meeting on Monday. Probably most of you in this room don't know that the developer at one time left the meeting. The discussion was not going very well with the Plan Commission at all. But they managed to resolve matters. They've managed to come together. And I would just like to say that the Green Bay City Council, I'm not saying that developers should always get what they want. I know development is complicated, it's complex, there's a lot of issues involved. But I think the council needs to be reasonable and it needs to be timely, in my opinion. And the Green Bay City Council right now is under the spotlight for the way it treats developers and for the way it handles development, particularly with the way some of the issues have been going of late. So I just encourage the council to be reasonable, to be timely, and to treat developers with respect and consider what they have to bring to the city in terms of their economic development. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so let's take that motion to return to regular order.
Right here.
A motion by Alderman Nicholson, second by Alderperson Dorf. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, nay. Alderman Zim, I
Yeah,
do
he-
think you had the floor.
Oh my God, we want more questions.
I would only like to amend that PUD be amended to subtract the lot of the parcel of land west of the Gretzka's property. I don't know if that's possible to amend that or not. It seems that they're in perfect agreement and it shouldn't come into play. So can I make that motion?
Yeah, we just heard about it tonight. I don't know if that's That's fine, you can make that motion. Let me
It
just,
was discussed, they were fighting a couple of years ago about it. But- Well, I mean, what's the big deal about it? It seems to me if we can clean that up and we resolve that problem. That's my motion.
Yep. Right. Alderman Moore? We gotta get moving.
Thanks. Your Honor, as it was explained earlier, this is not a hindrance to anything in the development, and the developer and the buyers are both willing to wait until the final plat is actually drawn to make sure that that property isn't needed for the final plat. So I wouldn't support the amendment with that being a part of it, not knowing yet how the roads are going to be constructed. As Dr. Vonk had explained earlier, we may need to carve into a piece of that possibly because of the wetlands and stuff that are there. So we could still get this development done without that piece, and without that piece, both the developer and the buyers both agreed tonight that they can wait on it. So I think that we should leave that out for now and move this thing forward.
That's what they asked for.
Alderman Nicholson?
Did they come and ask?
I agree
Okay,
with Mr. Moore's comments. Let's move forward.
right. Hang on, let me clean this up. Alderman Nicholson, you want to turn your light off? Okay, so the motion on the floor is to adopt item 7 with the amendment that the developer dedicates the trail land but is not responsible for the installation.
Correct.
I should take that first. All right, so he withdrew his second, so we're back to the original motion. Do you want to say anything else on that?
No,
That's
thank
it.
you. You know, Your Honor, please, I just want to say, 2.5 years, 3 years, they worked so hard to get this done. We need this going. They already lost their last buyer on this because it took too long. And now they got to start over from the beginning. And they need this done so they can do that.
All right.
Please.
All right, so the motion and the second is, I'm going to do the amendment first, is to amend it where the developer donates the land but is not responsible for the installation of the trails. So all in favor of that, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. And then I'll entertain a motion to adopt this as amended. By
Second.
Alderman Nicholson, second by Alderman Weary.
Your Honor, can I just ask Director Grenier how long they're going to take to get this plotted now?
Was,
The plots isn't there? Oh, we didn't vote on this?
yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Done.
All right, so there's a motion, and a second to adopt as amended. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed, nays. Ayes have it. That report
No,
now
I know what-
has been approved.
Yeah.
Okay?
Sorry.
Thank you.
We'll move to the report of the Protection and Welfare Committee.
All right, there's a motion by Alderman Scannell, second by Alderperson Dorff, to approve the report of the Protection and Welfare Committee. And that was, hang on. Yeah, we got that. I gotta find it, sorry. There's a motion by Alderman Zima, seconded by Alderman Stoyer, to approve the report of the Protection and Welfare Committee for the meeting held on Monday, February 12th. Any items in this report you wish to handle separately? Hearing none, all in favor of that report, please signify by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed, nays. Ayes have it, that report's been approved. Sorry it took so long.
Report of the Redevelopment Authority.
All right, there's a motion by Alderman Scannell. Second by Alderman Nicholson to approve the report of the Green Bay Redevelopment Authority. That was for the meeting held on Tuesday, February 13th. Any items in this report you wish to handle separately? Seeing no lights, all in favor of that report, please signify by saying aye. And those opposed, nays. Ayes have it, that report's been approved.
Report of the Finance Committee.
All right, there's a motion by Alderman Scannell. Second by Alderperson Dorff to approve the report of the Finance Committee, and that was for the meeting held on Tuesday, February 13th. Any items in this report you wish to handle separately?
2, 3.
Item 2, item 3. All right, hearing none others, all in favor of the remainder of that report, please signify by saying aye. And those opposed, nays. Ayes have it. What are your wishes regarding item 2? It's a motion to approve by Alderman Scannell, seconded by Alderperson Dorff. Was that you, Dave? Or Alderman Moore?
Thanks, Your Honor. This came out of committee on a 3-1 vote. I voted in support of holding the payment and getting more information. But in the meantime, I think I got all the information that I need. I do realize that there was intent, but a contract was never drafted and signed. So I think we have a legal responsibility as well as a professional responsibility to pay this. So I would like to amend this motion to read that we submit payment of past due amount and eliminate the word hold.
All right, so there's a motion by Alderman Moore, seconded by Alderman Slotnick to amend this to submit payment. Anything else, Alderman Moore?
That's all. Thank you.
Okay, on the amendment? All right, see no lights, all in
I
favor?
got one.
Nope, you don't? Now you do.
Yeah, I hit the wrong one then. I'm sorry.
Go ahead,
Your Honor, the
Alderman.
reason I asked this to happen because we've talked about this a couple of times. They didn't have a real agreement, was nothing ever signed, and I understand that it was an obligation, they were gonna agree and fill something out, and one attorney left and nothing happened, and so on, so on. But what bothers me, the amount of money they make at these festivities, and then they're gonna turn around and charge us to use that bathroom? I mean, they make hundreds of thousands of dollars each time we have an event down there. And then they're gonna turn around and charge us. So I really believe that, I know they said this went through our for the 2018 budget, and we have so many things that go through that's really not written out. So I'm just asking this council or the next council to really look into this next time this comes up, because, man, I tell you, when somebody, an entity like that, makes hand over fist, and then they wanna charge you for that bathroom to go in there, I think that's just absolutely
Right, I think it's
ridiculous.
just a 1 year, that,
Well, now,
right?
well, okay,
Yeah.
I'm just
Just
saying.
1 year.
So go ahead and pay it, that's fine, that's,
Right.
I understand all that, but man, this is
Okay.
ridiculous.
All right, so we have a motion and a second, change it to submit. All in favor of that amendment, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nays? No. Okay, and then a motion to adopt is amended? By Alderman Moore, second by Alderperson Dorf. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed, nay? No. You want to turn your light off, please, Tom? All right, on the last one, to submit the payment, adopt as amended, Alderman Zima wants that recorded, displayed, so. That passes on a vote of 8-4. Thank you. Okay, Pam. Well, no, we're on to item 4.
3?
3. What are your wishes regarding item 3? There's a motion to approve by Alderman Scannell, second by Alderman Moore. Alderman Nicholson.
Thank you, Mayor. Question for our city attorney. Could you just go through the gist of this? Is this the final episode of this issue?
Yes, so, we are, once we pay this, we are done, with the 097 Gens settlement. That one's done and over. The one that's left is the arbitration with CIVMIC. If we need to discuss why we're using what we are doing, I would recommend we do that in closed session, just because it may affect our strategy moving forward. But yes, outside of that, the agreement with, or the lawsuit with 097 Gens will be fully complete.
Okay, and how much is that?
The total amount was 2.5 million. Of that, 800,000 has already been paid. 200,000 of that was from the city, and we are currently in our arbitration with one of our 3 insurers. The other 2 were excess carriers.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mayor, this whole...
Yeah, go ahead.
Is it on? This whole issue started approximately 2011, and I was on city council at the time, and I believe I was the only one that voted against to even enter in any type of negotiation with this corporation. I am not going to support this. I haven't supported in the past. We should have never even entered in any agreement with this corporation. It was a bad idea. It was a bad idea back in 2011. And just think if we did have that incinerator right on the bay when we were trying to clean it up. I don't know, we might have some I don't know. It's hard to predict the future, but I'm not going to support this. I didn't back in 2011. Basically, they just dangled a carrot in front of our eyes, and the whole city council thought it was a great idea. But I didn't, and I didn't support it. I knew it was a bad idea. So I'm not supporting this at all. I don't want anything to do with this. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman. I don't want to argue with you tonight, but I'm
Thank you.
not sure you're 100% correct on that. I think there was a vote, and that I want to go over with you, that's on my desk.
Okay.
Okay. So there's a motion and a second to approve item 3. Use the board on this. That passes on a vote of 10 to 2. All right, thank you. All right, Pam?
Report of the Improvement and Service Committee.
It's a motion to approve by Alderman Scannell, second by Alderperson Dorff, to approve the report of the Improvement and Service Committee for the meeting held on February 14th. Any items in this report you wish to handle separately? Item 3? 9B, 7, and 10. All right, hearing none others, all in favor of the remainder of that report, please signify by saying aye. And those opposed, nays. Ayes have it. All items have been approved, the item with the exception of 3, 6, 7, 9B, and 10. What are your wishes regarding item 3? The motion to approve by Alderman Scannell. Second by Alderman Stoyer. Alderperson Dorff.
Thank you, Mayor. So I want to clarify that what I was asking the Improvement and Services Committee was simply to craft a proposal, not to vote on a wheel tax right then and there. So this is what I would like to ask council to consider tonight, that I would like to make a motion for a proposal to be crafted for a $15 wheel tax for council to consider at a future meeting. And this proposal would include all of the items that were in my original communication. And there were 7 items in that communication.
All right. So we're going to call that an amendment. Alderperson Dorff wants to amend item 3 to, instead of deny the request, is to have a proposal crafted to implement, as she said, a vehicle fee outlining the 7 items she submitted. Anything else?
No?
Okay, we're talking about the amendment now. You want to vote on this? All in favor of the amendment, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, nay? No. All right, and then a motion to adopt is amended?
Second.
So motion by Alderman Moore, second by Alderman Scannell, to adopt as amended. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. This is to have a proposal drafted.
I did.
Okay. All right, and that passes on a vote of 7 to 5. Yep. All right. What are your wishes regarding item 6? 7. There's a motion by Alderman Scannell. Second by Alderman Galvin, to approve item 7. Alderman Scannell?
No, I didn't vote.
Alderman Nenning, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Hello? Okay, thank you, Your Honor. I want to clarify this so that my colleagues on the council all know what the issue is here, and I know Alderman Nicholson will want to comment on it as well when I finish. On the desk tonight, Director Grenier placed a sheet listing the special assessments. It didn't get in the packet, and so here it is. Now, the one that was contentious at our committee was the Section 2 storm sewer 6-inch connection, storm connection. It had been $900, and the proposed 2018 rate was $950. We held this up at the last meeting, at the prior meeting, because we wanted more information on it. And at the Improvement Services Committee meeting last week, there were 4 of us there, and it was a tie vote. Alderman Nicholson made a motion to reduce the fee from the $950 that was proposed to $500. The motion failed on a 2-2 vote. After Alderman Nicholson left the meeting, there was a motion to reconsider the issue, and my recollection was that we reconsidered it, and then we approved the proposed rate of $950. Now, the minutes didn't reflect that clearly, but I guess the issue tonight is whether it should be $500 or $950. Now, we did get information from Director Grenier at the meeting. He explained how that $950 was calculated, and to try to make it clear, when a lateral is installed from the main in the middle of the road to the property line, we don't charge anything to the property owner for that. But when the property owner connects to it, we charge a connection fee to recover our costs for the lateral going all the way to the main, because the lateral going all the way to the main is what serves the property. Director Grenier explained that that was calculated assuming the half of a typical street, so 35 feet of lateral pipe going from the main in the middle of the road to the property line. And that cost was about $895. Plus, when someone connects, there's an inspection, and there's a cost for that, plus a small administrative fee. So that's how they arrived at the $950 figure. I know it's a high amount, and I know that people don't understand that this is to cover the cost of the lateral all the way to the main. But that's the way the city has been doing it. At committee, I related an example, a case I had down in West Bend with a property that my mother owns. They rebuilt her street, and she has a vacant lot next to her house. She had to pay for the lateral going from the middle of the road, from the main, to her property line, had to pay $2,000 of special assessment, even though she does not connect to it, and she never will. Green Bay's policy is that until you connect, we don't charge you for that lateral. Once you connect, we have been charging based on the cost of the lateral to the main, from the main, as well as inspection and a small admin fee. So having received that explanation, I was comfortable with the staff recommendation of $950 for that 6-inch storm connection fee. And I believe after Alderman Nicholson left the meeting that it was our intention to pass that 2-1. So, okay.
Okay, but I want to, item 7 is to approve the 2018 special assessments. Did you want to amend that back to 900?
I'd like to make a
950?
motion to amend it to say 950, which was the original amount that was proposed.
Okay. All right, and it's seconded by Alderman Galvin. That's what we're talking about right now, is the amendment to the special assessments, a 6-inch storm from 500 to 950. Anything else, Alderman? Dave, is there anything else? There's not. Okay, Alderman Chris Weary?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Chairman Nicholson and I voted for the $500 fee, and here's my reasoning. I think we've fought for probably as long as I've been on council to try and keep this fee as low as possible, or even to incentivize it and keep it less than our cost. The main reason being flooding. We all know flooding and drainage issues in our neighborhoods cause a ton of problems between neighbors in the driveways or sidewalks. You have some pumps running, between each other or back into your yard or onto sidewalks, and it's all, especially in the older neighborhoods, this is where we have this problem. I think the newer neighborhoods, they all have an underground, it all drains out into the sewer. So the cost is very discouraging. We should lower the cost to cut down, to promote hookups, to incentivize it. And we thought $500 was a reasonable compromise. For what the value that it'll bring to the city and to these problems that are wreaking havoc in a lot of our neighborhoods, I think it's worth a couple $100 times. We didn't have hard numbers. I don't know if we have 10, 20, 30, 50 mini sewers put in a year. It's not a lot. So you're talking a couple $1,000s to really start addressing this flooding issue, because a lot of what's going on is being pumped right back into the yard, and it drains into neighbors' yards, and we all know the calls we get on that, or it drains onto the sidewalk and we get icy sidewalks. Let's start burying all these things and get this stuff drained away. And so let's lower this cost and incentivize it. Let's really tackle this issue. So I'm voting against that, and then I think hopefully we can bring it back up and knock it down to 500. Thanks.
All right. Thank you. Alderman Zima?
Thank you, Your Honor. In the same vein that Mr. Weary is speaking, even the $500 is a disincentive, but it's not as big a disincentive as the $950. This price has gone up over the years, I believe. I seem to remember when it was around $500. And we just keep, every couple of years, we add some on. When you want to talk people in an area into putting a mini sewer in or whatever, this comes into play. And you talk about special assessments. This is a big one to take care of a relatively small problem. And I think, the 500 is plenty. And I think we'll get more people to be willing to hook up and solve that problem. So I'm opposed to the amendment.
Thank you. Alderman Slotnick?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a question for Director Grenier. When are these assessments made? Is this on a retrofit basis, or is this also done on new subdivisions?
We don't consider this to be an assessment. This is actually just a cost recovery. But if a main is installed, when the main is installed, we run the laterals out to the property line at that time, so that at such time that a property hooks up to the storm sewer, they don't have to cut up a new street. If there is a storm sewer that doesn't have and when a new street is put in, the cost of the storm main is assessed against the abutting properties at that time. So that's how the cost recovery on the main is accomplished, is through special assessments. Then the cost recovery for the 35 feet of lateral is recovered through the connection fee. If there is not a point of connection and we have to put mini storm in, the mini storm main is not directly assessed, but that same connection fee representing the 35 feet of storm sewer connection within the public right-of-way that somebody otherwise would have had to recover when a main was put in, that is charged against a mini storm. So the mini storm is only charged the connection fee. They are not charged the assessment on the main.
Okay, so what I heard you say is when the main is first put in a new area.
In a new area, when the main is first put in,
This assessment is applied against the adjacent lots.
the assessment for the main is, the connection fee for the lateral recovery is only issued to the property owner when a building permit asking for connection to the main is made.
Okay, I'm just trying to get a handle on what's being proposed right now is to reduce this by about $400. And we just talked about a new development out on the east side where there's several hundred lots involved.
Correct.
can I assume that if we change this from 900 to 400, that developer is going to incur a benefit of about $200,000?
The benefit would be the difference between, if, I'm going to presume your math is correct, yes.
Okay, thank you, that's all I wanted to know.
Alderman Slocum, is there anything else for?
No, nothing more.
Alderman Zima.
Thank you, Your Honor. I don't know if there's a way to carve something out regards to mini sewers, because what's happening is they're hooking up to some catch basin or something at the end of the block or something, and they're running a little mini sewer through. It's not everybody going way out to the street. It's a small thing, and I don't, is it possible to have this, I mean, I guess if you have it for a regular development at the 900, if that's what the real cost is for the whole thing, but that isn't an actual cost. People really get turned off by it. They build out to it, and then they gotta pay this extra $1,000. It's like they feel like it's a fine. And it really isn't paying for the cost of anything. So, I mean, can we exempt,
Existing?
can we hold it $500 for mini sewer connections and leave it, I guess, the same for new development or whatever? I mean, because that mini sewer is nothing like a big main or anything else. And that's how we're solving the water problem. It's hard to get people to do it, because it's not just the $950 hookup fee, it's whatever else they got to put into it from their house. So it gets very difficult to do. And what happens is, one person really needs it. Sometimes we order people to do it, and we try to put in the mini sewers. There's some people that have to. If they've created a water problem, they have to hook up to the mini sewer. But then, while other people in the block, the only incentive for them is that, well, they wouldn't have to pay for about 5 feet or something if they hook up right away. But most people say, well, I won't hook up at all. And the bigger that fee is, the more you have people not hooking up. So you put in a mini sewer through the whole block, and what happens? 1, maybe 2 people hooking up, the rest aren't. So you're losing revenue that way too. And there's not a real cost connected with this thing. It's just, we're keeping it the same as other past development happen to be. But I'm trying to help solve these water problems in the neighborhoods. I know some of the people who represent newer areas they probably don't even know what I'm talking about. But anybody who has some older areas know what we're talking about. So I don't know, is it possible to amend this that the hookup fee for mini sewers be $500? I think that's what we're mostly worried about in the older areas here.
Hang on. Can I ask you that, Steve? I mean, is that existing homes or the mini sewers?
The mini storm program was originally developed to address 2 situations. One where a sewer main is installed but no laterals are currently extended. The second situation is where there is no storm sewer in the street. The reason the mini storm sewer program was put in there was to eliminate the need for a property owner to pay the assessment on a main, because if there's no main in the street, what would have happened otherwise is we would have had to extend storm sewer out there, and then everybody got assessed for the storm, plus they paid whatever the connection fee is to get out to the right-of-way, because the lateral from the point of connection at the main all the way back to the house is the property owner's responsibility. For the second situation, where a main is out in the street but no laterals are extended, the mini storm program provides a convenient point of connection rather than requiring the property owner to open cut the street and pay for the repairs to the street as well. So that's why the $950 for consistency's sake, or making it the same as any storm sewer lateral. Why that was consistent, because the deferred cost was excavation in the street and the repair of the street.
Well, if I can continue, Your Honor.
Yep. I have his mic on too. Is this for me or Steve, or the council, or?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
appreciative of what he had to say.
All right.
Thank you. It's just that, be practical about something. the mini sewer goes in, you have one or two in a whole block hook up and the rest don't hook up. So you get two $900 fees and you don't get any you don't get any of the rest of them. So I think it's and I don't believe there is that big a cost. The people are doing their own hookup from their house outward. And that fee for hooking up there, I think, is plenty for a mini sewer. So I'd like to make an amendment that, I guess if would you accept that, Mr. Nennig? For mini sewers?
Well, personally, I thought that the fees that were proposed were reasonable. You know, when we put in a mini sewer, it's a great program, and they really do take care of problems that residents have. But the residents that I have that have been served by mini sewers are just thrilled that they don't get charged for the cost of that mini sewer, that the city picks up those costs. So,
But the mini sewer is a very small piece of pipe compared to the main.
I understand.
It's not, they're nowhere in the same ballpark.
Yeah, I understand, but, you know, it's a choice by the city whether to serve the property with a mini sewer or without. So, you know, I think on a lot of these fees, there's a connection fee established based on
So you don't want a friendly amendment?
on a typical
Just amendment, right.
street. And, you know, it's not to say that it's necessarily 35 feet of lateral for every installation, but that's your typical street. That's the average. The fee, you know, it's a connection fee. In order to make it simple, it was established at that amount. I think it just confuses things if we have a lower fee for one type of connection and not another.
Well, Your Honor, I don't think there's any confusion at all. I was just asking him for, if he'd accept a friendly amendment to it, but if he doesn't, I'll make, I guess, an unfriendly one. It's a friendly amendment for the people. I just make an amendment that we provide a $500 fee for mini sewer hookups. And if I could have a second on that. And it's you can't compare it to building a big pipe out in the middle of the street and running all the laterals out to it. It's not 1/10 the work. And don't hold me to that exactly, but that's my amendment. I would ask that be included for the hookups for mini sewers, and I believe that will more than pay for itself because you'll have more people hooking up. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we, I just want to ask, can we administratively, can we do that? We can do $900? $950. Or $950, and then $500? Okay. I got it. So we're talking about the amendment of the $500 for mini sewer hookup. You good?
Yep.
Alderman Nicholson.
Thank you, Mayor. Question on that motion, is that for existing, 500 for existing homes?
It kind of would be, right? Right.
Okay, I just wanted to
That's another way of
clarify.
saying it.
All right, thank you.
Could you hit your light, please, so I can get the next? Alderman Scannell?
One? Sorry, I didn't, no.
Okay. Alderman Joe Moore?
Thanks, Your Honor. I just want to clarify a couple things, and then I get to speak from personal experience on this. First off, as far as the development, talking about Grandview with new construction, even if they were to get the $400, $450 reduction here, the developer is not going to be the one building 450 homes. I mean, they're going to sell off these lots. There could be a dozen, 25, there could be 50 builders out there over the next 10 years building houses out there. So they're all going to, I mean, look, every one of them is going to benefit, but honestly, on each house, $400 some is going to offset what they're paying in current erosion control measures by bringing in extra mulch, extra, erosion control things that they have to do during the construction process because of our CMOP program and our different requirements that we have. So I really don't have a problem even if the new construction gets the reduction. I mean, I'll support this, I think, either way here with the reduction. But I also want to defend staff with their cost of $950 because I am one of those people that has a sump pump that runs every 15 minutes and runs out to grade. And the reason it runs out to grade is because the last quote I got was actually probably about 6 years ago for a 25-foot run from my house, which 25 feet is your setback, was $650 plus a $200 terracing fee to get under the sidewalk. So $850 would have been my cost to have a contractor come in, run the pipe from my house out, and then at that time, it was a $600 connection fee. So at that time, it was nearly $1,500 for me to do it. And now we'd be looking at over $1,800. You know, like I said, I'm thinking it's 5 or 6 years since last time I had it quoted. That does happen a lot throughout my district as someone who has marched those sidewalks campaigning and sloshing through people's sump pumps running out into the sidewalks and into the streets. The other part of this is that if every one of these was connected, and I understand there's a massive cost there, now you don't have water pooling on the sidewalks and freezing. You don't have it getting into your curbs and streets and freezing, and maybe your streets last longer. Maybe we don't need the street sweepers as much because the water's not washing so much out into your streets. I think that there's some peripheral savings that you can see by doing this here. And look, I understand not everyone's going to do it, but put a holiday on it. You know, let's say, look, for the next 2 years, we're going to charge $500, get it done. And then after that, if we need to raise the price back up, then we can do that. But I think it's a great incentive for people to go out, get it done while they can save the money. And then the city, look, we're talking years down the road, but we are going to see long-term savings in street maintenance, street repairs and stuff. So I'm going to support this motion regardless here, whether it's a reduction for all or a reduction for some. Thank you.
All right. The motion on the floor right now is for 500 for the mini sewers and 950 for everything else. And Alderman Tom Dwyer.
Thank you. I'm going to support the motion 100%. I'm hoping it goes both ways, 500 and from 950 to 500. I got a couple of residents that actually does construction. They do piping and stuff like that, but they, about 3 years ago, they were going to put it in and just stormwater off of Polaris and one off of Stella Vista because they get all that flooding back there in the yards. If they get a bad year for snow and rain, you know, they both get it, and both sides, both streets. And they were going to charge them $825. That was 2 years ago. So I don't know how it fluctuates so much, but they both told me it was going to cost them $825, even if the guy did both work from the back of their house to the lateral or wherever it goes to. And Steve, and I'm sorry if I'm just asking you a dumb question, but the cost of these laterals, like in my area, well, I mean, when they were put in, how many years ago? 30 years ago? I mean, 40 years ago? The cost back then really was what? You know, it's not $950, but yet these guys 2 years ago wanted to put one in. They're being charged $825 for the cost. Well, that wasn't their cost. So that's just something to think about. Thanks.
All right, so we have an amendment on the floor to reduce to have the mini storms at 500 and the others at 950. Okay, so all in favor of that motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed, nay.
Right.
Yep, that's what I said.
That motion is just for the mini sewer. Now we're talking about whether it's doing 550. This is just for mini sewers. No matter what happens with the next motion, mini sewers is 500 in the final.
All right, so I'll go back to you, Alderman Nenning, your motion, which is the 950.
Well, I think Alderman
That's what I thought.
just passed, so I think it would be on
Right. So let's adopt, the motion is amended, I think you understood that. So it's the $500 for the mini sewer and $950 for the others. That you just voted on, that's the amendment. All right, all in favor of that motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed, nay. why don't we just adopt item 7 as amended? All right, Alderman Scannell, second by Alderman Stoyer. All in favor of that, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, nay. Okay, we're on to 9B.
Okay, you combined it with 10?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
We're on to 9B. What are your wishes regarding 9B? Is the motion by Alderman Scannell?
Second.
Seconded by Alderman Tom Dwayne.
I just have a question, guys. For that B, that's for Bay Beach concessions and the ice cream project, correct? Both of them together? That bid?
We only approved the base bid, which was just the concession stand.
Okay.
Alternate A was for the ice cream shop, which
And you
was
have a
not in
bid
our
for,
budget.
do you have a bid for both of them, though?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
So the low bid for the base bid plus alternate A was higher than our budget.
Yeah, but wouldn't it be better just to get them both done now? I mean, when,
Our budget for the total budget that we have available is 700,000, so we can't exceed that budget. So that's why only base bid was awarded, not alternate A.
because it says,
Alternate
well, it
A,
says Bay Beach concession and ice cream shop here.
that was the title of the contract, correct. But we cannot afford alternate A, which is the ice cream shop. So at this point, what was awarded is just the base bid, which is rebuilding a concession stand and doubling the size of it.
So we should actually be crossing out the ice cream part on here. I mean, because it says Bay Beach and ice cream shop.
Correct. It's
So-
just that was the title of the contract, that's why it was worded that way.
I mean, because I want who's ever looking at this, they're gonna say, well, wait a minute, I bid on this for both of them.
All right, so we're gonna, motion by Alderman Dwayne, second by Alderman Moore
Just so it's clear.
just, right, change the title to the Bay Beach concessions.
Correct.
All right,
Thank you. Just,
fine. All right, there's motion and second to
we have
amend it.
bids out there.
All in favor of that? Alderman Vanderleest, did you want to speak on that?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Our parks personnel talked also about that. They're gonna do some electrical work to gear up for the next phase. I think you're gonna do that all at the same time with this bid, is that correct? In other words, for the ice cream shop there?
All of the site work leading up to the ice cream shop will be done as part of the base bid, just nothing inside.
So they're gonna bring in the wiring into that building so that when they do decide on the next phase, that part will already be there.
Okay.
So that's part of it, just so you're aware of that.
All right, well, thank you.
I still got a question then, Your Honor.
Yeah,
If,
go ahead.
if that was it, do the rest of the bidders know that that's how it was being done? That you're gonna complete one project but partially do another? I mean, they could have bid on that.
I think Steve can answer that better than I, but it was clearly stated in the bid documents what base bid was and what alternate A was.
Yep.
So they knew that part of the work was going to an ice cream shop.
Alternate bid, and the alternate bid could not be,
Yeah.
may or may not be awarded. Yes. That was
Okay,
very
thank you,
clear at
'cause
the
I
time.
think it needs to be clear because
Right, so we have a motion and second on the wording, the amendment, Bay Beach concessions. All in favor of the amendment, please signify by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed, nay. The motion adopted as amended.
Second.
By Alderman Scannell, second by Alderman Tom Dwayne. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. And those opposed, nays. Ayes have it, and that takes care of item 9. What are your wishes regarding item 10? Motion approved by Alderman Scannell, second by Alderperson Dorf. Alderman Vanderleest.
Thank you, Mayor. My proposal was that we do one of the bridge lighting, and we take the remainder of the money and we use it toward the road repair and railroad crossing repair. And that originally the bridges were lit with donations. And I thought if we did one bridge, we could probably get the other one donated. They're not gonna work on the West Mason Street Bridge because they're gonna be doing repairs within, let's say, a 7 or 8 year period, whatever it might be. So that was my proposal, that we would take some of that money and put it towards the roads, and we'd light one bridge. And I guess that's mainly what I was talking about, and we did discuss it, and it's still my proposal that we would do that.
Thank you. Alderman Scannell?
Thank you, Aaron. I support lighting up both bridges here. I've had many constituents and business owners downtown ask me when this is going to happen. These decorative lights are going to add some pop to our city. I mean, our city, we need to take care of our nuts and bolts, but our infrastructure is a systemic problem, and we should come up with systemic solutions to address it. Just picking money here and there, I appreciate, I appreciate that effort, but I really see it as ineffective. And to rob Peter to pay Paul here, I mean, these lights, a city is its nuts and bolts, but it's also its soul. And these lights are going to add a vibe that will bring people downtown, keep people downtown. These lights are going to put money in businesses' pockets and create an area where people want to come and work and play and live. So I don't see these lights as being frivolous. I think they're an important part of a downtown development, and so I support lighting both bridges. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Want to use the board?
One quick comment here.
Yeah,
I don't oppose lighting both bridges.
right.
Just talking about differently how we.
I understand that.
Financially, how we can do it. We'll probably get one donated.
Okay. Well, we'll see what happens.
The bridge lighting,
Yes, sir. Thank you.
still get the bridges.
All right, thank you, Alderman. All right. Oh. Yep, I am going to, I don't see your light. Alderman Weary.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it's important that Director Grenier, if you could just explain for us, I mean, everybody at committee heard it, but I think you gave an excellent reason as why we should award this bid, because we are pretty far downstream on this, and I agree, the expense is probably more than really should be spending on this, but its value obviously is good. But Director Grenier, could you just tell us how many times it's been bid out and where we are and what you heard from the person who bid on it?
Sure. What I explained to the committee was not in relationship to any project. It's more of a philosophy and how we do things. When we pass a capital improvement program, we have a list of projects out there, and this project was listed in 2 CIPs, was approved twice, actually went out for bid once already. When we let a project, we're receiving confirmation back not only from the low responsive bidder on this project, but I've also gotten independent confirmation from consultants that we use at Berner Schober that the city is actually being looked at in a very negative light right now because of our tendency of late to let contracts and then not award them. We've gotten independent confirmation, again, from outside parties that we work with, that there are major contractors who absolutely refuse to bid on city contracts because of that. And, speaking with Northern Electric, we understand every contractor has sunk costs that they put into preparing a bid, but it's one thing to put a sunk cost in and then lose it to a competitor versus everybody putting the costs in and nobody awarding the bid. So in essence, if I can paraphrase a little bit, Alder Weary asked me, the time to have the discussion as to whether or not we were going to bid it would have been at the time of approval of the CIP, and I agreed with that sentiment. Once we have it and we decide to put the project out on the street for bidding, and I did make mention to Alder Weary that I've said this in the past, if you put a project out for bid, you better have a good reason not to award it, especially if you have the money in the fund to make the award at the contract price that was received. And I was very upfront about that a couple of weeks ago when we opened the contract, that we do have the money available to pay for this one. So I think that's what Alder Weary was asking about.
Perfect. Thank you, Director.
All right. So again, this is on item 10. No.
Now it is. Yes.
Okay. Okay, Alderman Nicholson?
Thank you, Mayor.
Nope.
That statement from our director, I mean, that goes both ways. I mean, there's contractors that don't want to bid to the city of Green Bay because of staff. I mean, we got to consider that also on different subjects. But let's put our cards all on the table here. I think this is a mistake. I mean, we're gonna have people from the far east side to go downtown just to see the lights at a bridge. I'm gonna put that on my next survey and see what the people of District 3 is gonna say, if that's gonna bring people downtown. So, I don't know. Roads? A bridge? What's that old saying? I got a bridge to sell you? Roads, bridge? Well, what's more important? That's how I look at it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman. And Alderman Zima.
Thank you, Your Honor. I really take umbrage with the comments of Director Grenier. We have turned down bids many times, and look at this one. This one was originally turned down, and now it comes back with a little reworking, and gee, $400,000 savings. And now, some people are trying to decide whether they think it's worth $900,000 to put these lights on the bridge in this manner. Maybe there are other ways to do it less costly. And I think that's why the council voted that way. And I mean, to be bullied into that, oh, we've got to honor a bid, we can turn down any and all bids anytime we want to if we think they're more than what we want to pay for them. And whether there's money sitting in a bond issue or not, doesn't mean that you have to spend that money for it if you don't think it's worth it. Now, I personally think it's too much money. I think it can be done much less than that to get lighting. You might even get some advertisers to do it. But I'm opposing this spending of $900,000 for lighting. I think we can do the job much cheaper. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. All right. So this is item 10, under improvement and service. I don't want to take it out. I'll vote on this. That passes on a vote of 9-3. Thank you. Okay, Pam?
Report of the Park Committee.
There's a motion by Alderman Randy Scannell, second by Alderman Chris Weary, to approve the report of the Park Committee. That was for the meeting held on Wednesday, February 14th. There's a motion and a second to approve this. No, Chris was already on there. You guys,
Excuse me, Mayor. On that last vote,
yes?
my request was that would it be approved? One bridge would be lit by the city, and the other would go towards the road repair. So I voted yes, that my proposal would be.
Oh, yours wasn't, I took item 10. I'm sorry, so we'll change that to a no vote. All right. There's a motion second to approve the report of the Park Committee. Are there any items in this report you want to handle separately? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. That report's been approved. Pam,
Receive and place on file.
Now you're in personnel.
Personnel? Yeah.
Report of the Personnel Committee. I'll skip one.
There's a motion by Alderman Scannell, second by Alderman Joe Moore, to approve the report of the Personnel Committee. That was for the meeting held on Tuesday, February 13th. Any items in this report you wish to handle separately? Seeing no lights, all in favor of that report, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, nays. Ayes have it. That report's been approved.
Can I read this?
Yeah, read that. I'm sorry.
We got to receive and place on file the municipal court for January 2018.
So moved.
All right, there's a motion by Alderman Weary, second by Alderman Scannell, to receive and place on file.
Zima and Scannell.
Pardon me?
It was Zima and Scannell.
right.
Mr. Weary didn't speak.
All right, there's a motion by Alderman Zima, second by Alderman Scannell, to receive and place on file the report stated by the clerk. Any discussion here? All in favor of that report, please signify by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed, nays. The ayes have it, and that report has been received and placed on file.
Next, we have resolutions. You may, under suspension of the rules, adopt resolutions 10 through 18 together with one roll call vote.
All right, there's a motion by Alderman Dwayne, seconded by Alderperson Dorff to suspend the rules for that purpose. All in favor of suspension, please signify by saying aye. And those opposed, nays. Ayes have it, the rules are now suspended. Motion to adopt by Alderman Scannell, seconded by Alderperson Dorff. If you please use the board, this is 10 through 18. Okay. Right. Pardon me?
I just asked if I could comment on that. Sure.
Let's throttle this back, clear that. Alderman Moore,
If Nicholson's got.
Alderman Nicholson,
Thought you were gonna clear it up.
I can comment on it.
Sure.
go ahead, Alderman Moore.
All right. Actually, I was only going to just comment, and I appreciate the work that staff out of Finance and Planning did on this to evaluate the TIFs, which really are no longer needed. 6, 11, and 15 have some life left in them, but they've served their purpose. There's really no need for these TIFs to exist any longer. So by dissolving these, I mean, we're really just kind of cleaning it up, and, we're reducing the number of TIFs that we have in the city, and we're rolling
Right.
forward. So that's all. Thank you.
I guess the question I had, Mayor, is how much money did it bring back to the city? Because isn't that the purpose of the tax?
Yeah, they go, right. What's going back on the tax roll, is that your question?
Yeah.
Kevin, do you know that?
This is what you sent me. So, reason we're closing 2 of them, is we've actually had some decrement in them, which is 11 Old Main Street, lost about 3.7 million in value. It's still at 37 million. And then 15, which is Old North, lost about 4.5 million in value, but that's still at 23 million. TID 6 is at gained about $1.8 million worth of value, and that's about $18 million worth of value. I think to Aldermore's point, the reason for we're cutting some of these down with Old North and Main Street, one of the issues we ran into was the city acquired a number of properties, some nonprofits acquired a number of properties, school district acquired a number of properties in terms of the timing of the TID. So I think one of the things too, now it's prudent to get those out of a TID and look at, future development in that area coming directly back to the tax rolls. There's not really any imminent projects. If there is, we could consider a new tax increment district. But in terms of the timing, it's in the city's best interest to close these down right now.
So what I understand is 11 and 15, we lost finances on it?
Correct. So in terms of we didn't lose, I guess. Those tax increment districts were created at the time for certain development projects. They're older TIDs. TID 11 is from 2005. TID 15 is from 2007. Some of those projects didn't materialize or came about in different ways. With that, I mean, they've been open for 10-plus years. There's not really any sign of any additional projects coming forward right now. With that, I just want to clarify in terms of the loss, that loss would have happened whether the TID was in existence or not, because we're talking about the base value, and the base value gets frozen when you create a TID. So I think just in terms of bouncing back now, in terms of development in those areas, it won't go into the TID, but it'll be reflected directly on the tax rolls, and I think that's to the city's benefit to be able to capture that.
Okay, where is 6?
6 is Navarino, so just kind of the near east side. That was funded to look at primarily a residential driven, some neighborhood enhancement. We've worked with NeighborWorks, we've worked with Habitat, we've worked with a number of smaller developers. And we've been able to put some projects back on the tax roll. We don't have any big projects left. There's enough left in that TID fund to pay some of the obligations that are outstanding. So that'll be put in an escrow account to pay those out. But there's really not any bigger projects coming down the pipeline, so we feel it's best to get that back on the regular tax rolls at this time.
Thank you.
Okay, so again, this is 10 through 18. That's awesome. All right, those pass unanimously.
Ordinances, first reading. You may, under suspension of the rules, advance ordinances 19 through 23 to a third reading.
There's a motion by Alderman Scannell and seconded by Alderperson Dorff to suspend the rules for that purpose. All in favor of suspension, please signify by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Motion to advance by Alderman Scannell, seconded by Alderman Nicholson. All in favor of advancement, please signify by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed, nays. Ayes have it.
Ordinances, third reading. You may, under suspension of the rules, adopt ordinances 24 and 25 together with one roll call vote.
Right, there's a motion by Alderman Scannell, second by Alderperson Dorff to suspend the rules for that purpose. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed, nays. Ayes have it. Motion to adopt. Right, there's a motion by Alderman Scannell, second by Alderperson Dorff. Please use the board on this third reading, 24 and 25. Clear the board. Is there anything else? Go ahead. Go ahead.
I don't think I'm on yet, I don't know. Okay, thank you. I was busy writing a communication during announcements by supervisors and by aldermen, and I'm just, I neglected to point out what I think the council should know. In this past week, we had the passing of one of our early redevelopment authority chairman, Marvin Rentmeester. He was 95 years old, and they thought it was kind of a joke back in 1974 or so that a farmer at the edge of town would be appointed to the redevelopment authority. But he was, and he gained the confidence of the redevelopment authority, and he was finally elected as their president for a period of time. And Marvin and his wife Myrtle, who is still alive, was going to be 94 next month, and Marvin just passed this past week. He was 95 years old, and I have to tell you that they never did a selfish thing in their life, and everything they had, they gave to people who were in need. People had heart transplants and things like that that couldn't meet all their bills. That's where their money went. They lived as humble as could possibly be imagined, and I think they left money to the zoo, everything to the community, nothing for themselves. And I just wanted to pay my respects to Marvin Rentmeester, who passed at age 95 and was an early pioneer in our redevelopment authority. And I just thought it should be mentioned for the record. Thank you.
That's very kind. Thank you. And those opposed, nays. Ayes have it. We're adjourned.